The judgment hall was colder than I expected. Not physically, no, the climate was tuned for neutrality, but something about the polished obsidian floor, the silent tiered gallery of alien delegates, and the towering crystal psionic pillar humming behind the bench made the place feel like a mausoleum dressed up as a courtroom. They'd brought me here for evaluation. A diplomatic formality, they called it. A routine mind touch by a Highmind telepath to verify humanity's intent in the recent water mining disputes near Tar space. But we all knew what this really was, a test. Of us. Of me. I walked forward across the circular platform, footsteps a soft echo under the weight of 100 eyes. Most of them didn't blink. Some didn't have eyes at all. "State your name for the record," came the voice of the judicator, a six-limbed insectoid being encased in gold-trimmed armor. "Elias Rourke," I said clearly. Age 32, representative of the Human Concord delegation, born on Earth, city of New Boston. There was a flicker across the psionic crystal, like it was acknowledging me. And then she entered. Virell'a Ka'Thun. Tall, impossibly tall, with pale indigo skin that shimmered like silk in motion. Her eyes, lidless and violet, met mine, unreadable. Her robes whispered as she moved, trailing delicate neural threads like smoke behind her. She didn't walk so much as glide. She stopped a few paces from me. "The human," she said, her voice a melody laced with condescension. Curious. So much violence from so short a history. Her words weren't meant for me, but for the council watching from above. A murmur spread among them. I didn't flinch. "Your species has been at war for millennia longer than ours. We just happen to remember it better." That got her attention. For the first time, her gaze settled fully on me. "Emotions sharpen your tongue," she said. "Let us see if your mind is as clever." She extended her hand. I didn't move. "You are free to resist," she said. "But it will be noted as non-cooperative behavior." "I'm not resisting," I replied. "Just considering." Consideration is a primitive delay tactic. Or a survival mechanism. A beat of silence. Then she took one step closer. Her palm hovered an inch from my temple. "Let the mind touch commence," the judicator intoned. The room dimmed. The psionic crystal flared. And then her fingers touched my skin. Her mind collided with mine like an avalanche. There was no easing in, no gentle scan, just a plunge into the deep. I felt her sift through the surface first, language patterns, formal memories, diplomatic protocols. But when she went deeper, the tenor changed. Her pace slowed. Her focus narrowed. She saw the war, our war. She saw the burning skies over Jakarta. The screaming in the tunnels of old Berlin. The face of a mother holding her dead child after the Boston quakes. And then, she saw me. Not the version I wore for the diplomats, but the one I tried to forget. Me at 17, crouched behind rubble, whispering apologies to a dying friend. Me at 22, shaking as I held a rifle on a prisoner I didn't want to shoot. Me staring at the stars above a ruined world, wondering if any of it would ever be worth it. Emotions weren't just emotions in a mind touch. They were real. They had sound and pressure. Guilt tasted like iron. Grief rang like a chime underwater. Love felt like warmth in your chest and cold in your bones at the same time. I heard her cry out. And then the connection snapped. Virell'a staggered back 3 steps, her limbs shaking. Her eyes went wide, unfocused. Her mouth opened in a silent scream, then she collapsed. The impact echoed across the hall like thunder. The neural threads from her robes went limp, pooling around her like severed veins. Gasps erupted from the delegates. Security drones hovered forward, blaring alerts in half a dozen languages. I didn't move. The judicator rose. "Stand down," it ordered the guards, though its voice wavered. 2 Zarn medics rushed to Virella''s side, scanning her with handheld psionic readers. One whispered something in their native clicks. The other looked up at me like I'd just committed a crime. "What?" Did you do? The adjudicator asked. I met his gaze. She wanted the truth, I said. I didn't hide it. A full minute passed in paralyzed silence. The council didn't know what to do. The Highmind had collapsed from a human's memories. That had never happened before. I turned my eyes toward the psionic crystal. Its glow had dulled. Not dimmed, dulled. Like something inside had grown afraid. One of the medics rose and addressed the bench. She lives, he said. But her mind is not stable. She is experiencing residual human emotional resonance. It is contaminating her neural lattice. Contaminating? I repeated. Restructuring, he admitted reluctantly. We've never seen this reaction in a telepathic probe before. She's not broken, I said quietly. She's just overwhelmed. The adjudicator looked down at me like I was a paradox it couldn't solve. You will be held for analysis. Until we determine whether your mind constitutes a threat to galactic security. I nodded. I expected as much. As they led me away, the last thing I saw was Virell'a, unconscious, twitching lightly on the floor, her mouth forming shapes in a language no Zarn had ever spoken before. Human words. The holding chamber was silent, sterile, and 10 degrees too cold. A single light strip hummed overhead. No bed. No mirror. Just walls, curved, featureless metal that absorbed sound and gave back nothing. I'd been here 9 hours. Maybe 10. Hard to tell. They'd taken my comm, my jacket, even the encrypted rings on my fingers. All that remained was the ache behind my eyes and the residue of her scream, still clawing the edges of my memory. The door finally slid open with a hiss. An avian figure stepped in, short, feathered and pale blue, wearing a translator disc on its chest and a long medical sash. Dr. Ka'Thun of the quarry. A junior researcher, I remembered. Quiet. Observant. No vote on the council. You're not authorized for interrogation, I said. He blinked. I'm not here to interrogate. Then what? He tapped the console beside the door. The wall behind me shimmered. A thin window appeared, a one-way pane revealing the outer ring of the station. Beyond the glass, a slow-turning star pulsed orange behind the wreck of a drifting cargo freighter. Peaceful. Deceptively so. I thought you'd want to see something not made of steel, Ka'Thun said. You've been under neural observation since the incident. No signs of instability. Good. That means I'm still me. He hesitated. Virell'a is stable. Her vitals returned to baseline 4 hours ago. I turned. And her mind? He shifted uneasily. Not baseline. Different. How different? She's displaying cognitive structures consistent with what you would describe as emotional contagion. High empathy spikes. Spontaneous dream activity. Fluctuating self-identity markers. She woke speaking your language. Repeating your memories. I frowned. That's not contagion. That's transfer. Call it what you like, he said, voice low. She's requesting to see you. That gave me pause. Already? She insists. She said, and I quote, I can't unsee him. I must know if the gravity was real. I stood. Then unlocked the door. They brought me to her chamber in silence, flanked by 2 security officers with plasma staves. Not that I blamed them. The medical wing was brighter, more open. Designed for peace, not prison. I stepped through the threshold and saw her sitting upright on a reclined bed, draped in soft neural mesh, her eyes fixed on a swirling datapad that projected memory streams in ghost light around her head. She looked different. No longer the regal Highmind with perfect poise and imperious calm. There were lines in her expression now. Not age, texture. Her gaze held hesitation. Her shoulders didn't float as high. She was grounded. She looked up. The datapad dimmed. I remember the face of your friend, she said softly. The one in the rubble. He was holding a picture. I froze. I didn't focus on that memory. You didn't have to. It was loud. I stepped closer, cautious. How much do you remember? Not all of it. But what I saw, it doesn't fit in my mind. It stretches me. She tapped her temple. I feel things I can't name. There's heat behind my eyes when I recall your mother's voice. My skin trembles when I think of the tidal fires in Jakarta. My mind doesn't know what to do with those shapes. They're called emotions, I said quietly. No. We have emotions. But this is different. Yours don't just express, they bleed. They don't pass through the body. They live in it. I sat on the edge of the diagnostics chair across from her. Why did you ask to see me? Her eyes met mine. To know if what I felt was a weapon or a window. And? I don't know yet. She studied me for a long moment. You're calm. Even now. I've lived with what you touched my entire life. Then how do you function? How do you sleep? I don't. Not really. Her lips parted slightly. As if the answer surprised her. Or hurt her. A long silence followed. Then, do all humans carry this? Every one of us. Some bury it. Some break under it. Some make art or war or children from it. We don't all show it the same way, but it's always there. She looked down. And yet we called you primitive. You still do. Her laugh, unexpected, dry, broke the tension. Not anymore. Another silence, gentler this time. Then the door chimed. Caval stepped in, eyes cautious. Council requests immediate assessment, he said. They want your statement, Virell'a. She stood. Not as steady as before, but with a new center of gravity. Elias, she said. Will you stand with me? I blinked. Why? Because they will not believe it unless you are there. They need to feel the presence of what I saw. I'm not interested in putting on a show. This isn't a show. It's a mirror. I hesitated. Then nodded. We walked together into the crescent chamber, the heart of the station, lined with floating thrones and flickering banners from 200 worlds. The council was already murmuring. Some stared at me like I was a bomb. Others like I was a lab rat. A few, with curiosity that bordered on awe. Virell'a stepped into the center and raised her hand. I have been changed, she began, voice steady. By a mind not trained in telepathy. Not shielded. Not curated. A human mind. Raw. Alive. Murmurs erupted. The human Elias Rourke did not attack me. He did not project thoughts. He simply allowed me to see. And what I saw was truth, painful, vast, honest. It burned because it was real. Because it lacked the filters we have spent millennia building to protect ourselves. She turned to them slowly. I will not speak against him. I will not speak against his species. I speak only against our arrogance in believing we understand what primitive truly means. The judicator narrowed its eyes. You imply humanity is more evolved? I imply evolution is not a ladder. It is a spiral. We moved away from emotion to survive. They embraced it to become something else entirely. She looked back at me. And I think they've become something we are not ready for. The council's silence stretched thin, sharp, like a blade held just above the skin. Virell'a stood firm in the center of the crescent chamber, her presence softer now but somehow heavier, like gravity had found her and refused to let go. I remained behind her, just out of the circle, my name unspoken but my shadow long across the polished floor. Finally, the judicator stirred. Your statement challenges precedent, Highmind. The mental integrity of a psion is assumed inviolable. Then update your assumptions, Virell'a said calmly. Because I was touched by something stronger than barriers. Something older than protocol. The human? Yes. But not just him. The weight he carried. The memories. The way they breathe and echo even after silence. It was not structured, but it was true. Another voice cut in. Deep, metallic. Commander Lyervo of the Threx Dominion. Are you saying humans are mind weapons? No, she said. They are unarmored. They don't shield their thoughts with filters or psionic buffers. They feel everything, and remember it. Not in data blocks, but in layers. Like sediment pressed by time. You can't scan that. You can only drown in it. I could tell the council didn't like that. The idea that something couldn't be categorized, measured, boxed. That's not science, Lyervo snapped. It's mythologizing. Virell'a looked at him. Then mythologize me. Because I am no longer who I was. All eyes turned to me now. I stepped forward. My people have survived extinction-level events. Not because we were the smartest. Not the fastest. But because we adapted. We remembered pain. We kept scars visible. You call that volatility. I call it human. The judicator tilted its head. And what do you propose, Mr. Rourke? That we treat uncontrolled emotional projection as a virtue? I propose you recognize it for what it is, a strength you've forgotten. Emotion isn't chaos. It's information. Just harder to quantify. They fell quiet again. Virell'a stepped back. I request a reclassification of humans within the Concord records, from reactive primitives to adaptive cognitives. That sent a ripple through the delegates. A reclassification meant new rights. New weight in policy. The ability to host diplomatic hubs. Access to shared galactic memory networks. It would rewrite humanity's place on the interstellar map. Council vote required, the judicator said flatly. Majority approval needed. Polling begins now. Holograms flickered to life, spinning above the council seats, votes appearing as color-coded sigils. I watched them appear one by one. Neutral. No. No. Abstain. Yes. No. No. Yes. And then. Yes. 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 It wasn't going to pass. My chest tightened, not out of surprise, but inevitability. This was the pattern. Fear dressed as caution. Control disguised as order. Then one vote stopped the room cold. The Zarn, their sigil turned green. A yes. Whispers exploded. The same species whose Highmind had collapsed at a human's touch had just endorsed our elevation. All eyes shot to Virell'a, but she didn't gloat. She simply bowed her head. She had spoken with clarity. They had chosen trust over fear. That was enough. Moments later, the judicator stood. Motion passes. Humans are hereby classified as adaptive cognitives within the Concord. Diplomatic privileges will be adjusted accordingly. I exhaled. Not relief. Not pride. Just a release of something coiled too long. Later that evening, I found myself on the viewing deck, alone, until I wasn't. Virell'a appeared quietly, her presence no longer shimmering with superiority, but grounded in something raw. She stood beside me, hands folded behind her back, gaze fixed on the nebula beyond. I saw that place in your memory, she said. The one with the stars crashing into each other. Carina Nebula. We used to send telescopes there. Before we left Earth. Before Earth changed, she added. I nodded. She studied the void in silence. When I first touched your mind, she said softly, I thought I would die. The emotions, your memories, they were alive. Like they could reach out and grip me. I thought it was attack. But now. I wonder. I glanced at her. Wonder what? If maybe. I was just being born. That quiet hung between us, tender and unnerving. You still afraid of humans? I asked. She smiled faintly. No. I'm afraid of what will become after understanding you. Maybe that's the point, I said. Growth hurts. She looked at me. You're dangerous, Elias. I know. Not because you can kill. But because you feel. That much emotion, held without bursting? It's unnatural. I met her gaze. It's human. She exhaled. Then, without warning, she reached forward, not with her hand, but with her mind. A gentle pulse. No probing. Just contact. This time, she didn't scream. Instead, I felt her. Curious. Cautious. Open. And beneath it, a spark. Something new. Something ours. She stepped back, blinking. I didn't drown. You're learning to swim. I hope so, she whispered. We stood in silence again, two silhouettes against the stars. And somewhere beyond the walls of Aequitas, a new story was beginning. Not of dominance or conquest. But of understanding. Of minds that bled stars, and of beings finally ready to see them shine.